They were late getting the pictures back to me, and then when they did send them, they sent them to the wrong house.
Oh, and you're too.
Yeah.
Wow.
It delayed me by a day getting it out.
Maybe people should have.
I actually don't have those numbers on. I wasn't sharing the spring months, so I did the stats, but when we were out and about, we gone to and then we went to it was,
Big line.
yeah, we're pretty busy nonstop.
Okay, Susan,
Yes, sir.
we will recycle those, just set them to the side, we'll put it over here and recycle that.
Yeah, is there?
Oh, yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm just nuts. You mean just put it to the side?
Yeah, just stack them on a chair.
Well, you know what, we really like recycling, so how would I bring it to you?
No, I'm gonna recycle. Oh, this is not a recycle bin. I get that.
That's a trash can, the blue thing's the recycle
What's
bin.
trash can? Like,
It goes to the garbage and then the landfill. The recycle bin gets reprocessed into cardboard and other stuff.
They are just saying that to you, I know, because I saw that earlier. Good morning. I saw them and I was like, they're maybe it's not. I was gonna say, if you like it, you can do it, but if you don't read them.
did you see all that wasted paper? That came with that.
Someone
Can you believe
started
it?
getting me.
One report,
I didn't sign up for it or anything.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes when you go to a gala and sign or something, they automatically put you for like 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, for long shows and then you start getting the house and things.
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense. Well, maybe we don't like it. You can go there, yeah.
In the bathroom, you're welcome, everyone. Spend some time in there, thank you for putting that in my thoughts.
What?
Camera?
That's cool.
Sing?
Yeah, we have the and Arturo went. Wow. If you didn't get it, I was holding it. What do you think?
I'm gonna get that email.
Yeah.
Look for his email, the one that he sent. What's his email so I can send it to him?
Just read it. Just what I get for you. Come back to that book. That day, and we turn to the book.
Good, great.
On Sunday, we look at the paper, we read notices and all that stuff. And we do it all.
Hey, how are you?
Well, 20, about $30. Well, we found it.
Yes, I already sent it to her. Did you say she has it?
That's pretty clever.
So, because we have. Yeah, great, throw that in front of
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I just thought I would send it to you.
Yeah, so it's definitely the.
What's his email? Oh, okay, perfect.
Or your friends.
That's what I could do with the tail end, BenOxford.com. I couldn't get that to pop up on my phone. Anyway, that's perfect. Lovely.
Yeah, there's so much stuff.
Yes.
Like, it was just, it was.
Bart's getting done, tile's getting done. So excited that they understood. It took us a while to understand each other. So much. I'm gonna have, anyway, come see, you gotta come see, it's gonna be beautiful.
Okay.
Perfect. Did you wanna hide that? You can check. Okay. All right, I'll go get the paint. I don't know what the materials are. I think he got a little greedy the second time around. I really do, because it's my first paint show. And I was greedy. And he charged me for that's coming up the stairs. You know, but he kissed me right, but it's when you roll, you know, they have extensions. Never mind.
I'm doing well, Deb. How are you?
He is actually perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. And okay. Well, I'd love to see you. I do have June or two. But maybe. Perfect. Just put this. Love this show you that one. I love to show you. Every time I see Star Masson's name, I'm thinking of something extraterrestrial. Seriously. And what are you eating this morning?
Same thing. Some broth, but I put an egg in it.
But you're going to live to 150.
That's the goal.
Are you having that much fun? I don't want to live to 150.
I'm having a good time.
Good.
It never seems weird to me until somebody asks.
Well, if the broth was hot, then maybe it.
No, the broth is hot. It's warm, but the egg didn't cook all the way, and so it's a little raw. But I don't eat for flavor or anything like that. I eat for
Oh my God! See, I grew up in Orange. You eat for flavor.
Well, unless it's like a really well prepared meal or like a dish or something.
Have you ever gone to Shade? I went to Shade yesterday.
I've been there one time, and I really liked it.
I had their quiche. I mean, I was about to throw myself on the floor. Their quiche is like you're in France. Not that I've been in France recently, but it's just fluffy and the salad. So that was good.
Okay.
Last night I was just lazy and just had a lot of chicken when I was on the way home from Austin. So I didn't eat on that.
What kind of chicken was it?
Barbecue chicken. Yeah, so I'm making chicken salad or something. And then just a fill. I mean, anyway. I need to get back on the road of just salads. And I'm going to walk. The car's in the shop, so I'm going to walk to X Prime just to get outside.
It's supposed to be
Just have a hamburger patty. Do you ever have meat? Yeah, I'm a carnivore. Are you O negative?
I don't know. I'm sure I've had
You call the doctor. Well, when they're getting ready to give you B and you're A negative or O negative, you need to, hey, wait a minute, guys.
At Vex Prime, they have certain people, and it's just some bacon and avocado.
That's a good idea, because I don't have the bun, so I can have the patty.
It's called the kitchen sink.
Love it.
It's called the kitchen sink.
Did your mother ever use that term? I love that term.
I do too. They do put Swiss cheese on it. I probably don't do the Swiss cheese on that much. This isn't
I like the onions. So onions, guacamole, and
bacon. Hey Kay, how are you?
never dream of interrupting guacamole. I know. You are a smart girl. Oh, have fun.
Okay.
How funny. We're talking food. I do too. The CEO, who is so nice, is a girl.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Come on. Molly Voorhees,
Okay.
and she lives 2 doors down.
Is it a family
Yes, her daddy started it. I think he started it. Google it, but I think he started it in Santa Fe. Or Albert. Because when summer, they just take off. His was a writer. He's written a children's book. And it's fabulous. I think it's Google that, because his name is Court, Coert, Voorhees, Vora. Did she just take her check? It doesn't matter.
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
So I'm looking for Court
Voorhees and a children's book. I'll be right back. I know, I need to do what you asked me to do.
Well, now you realize
Well, no. I need to, oh, I need to know what I'm saying.
Usually it's big. But there is a certain.
So I was sitting there.
You know,
You sit there, you're gonna be
in a film.
oh, yeah, you're gonna be on the, good. Yeah, I'm still a little. I think that.
Oh, I know, I need to see something.
I sure. At the yellow casino, how are you? Good looking?
I'm doing really good. Will you share your memory?
Absolutely. I can move back.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, of course.
I have it.
Fine.
I
It is
did,
so
yeah.
clever. Wrestling a rattlesnake. It is so fabulous.
But these don't look like, oh, that is children's books, yeah. Nelson the Nam, that's cute.
He did all these.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah, the Storm Wrangler. It is so cool. He's got so many good sayings in there about the lightning and it's just, I bought several for your kids.
Oh, great.
We can go into my flood thing.
You ready?
Sure. You're gonna pull back up. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started with sports. So nice to see you today. Nice to see you. Nathan is here from HAR, so I was going to do my presentation first, but we're going to let Nathan go first. He'll talk for a while, and if you have any questions, he'll be happy to go over anything, and then I'll go into my presentation afterwards. So we're happy to have Nathan here today from MLS. How long have you been with us?
13 years.
13 years. You know what you're doing now, Nathan?
I hope so.
Very good. So Nathan's over the MLS. We know him most with we get reported for something. We often have to deal with Nathan if our agents are not in compliance with the MLS, or if we turn in people who are not in compliance with the MLS. Often you'll get a response from Nathan. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But first, he's here to give us an update on MLS and Platinum versus Standard.
Yes.
Platinum versus Standard. We've talked about this a couple of times. I just thought it would be clear if Nathan were here to explain it to us one more time and answer any of our questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill. Who's controlling this?
I am. Just let me know when you're ready.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, so you've seen the emails that have gone around saying that MLS Platinum goes into effect on July 16th. Next slide.
And you see that it says $129 is going to be the subscription rate. What I passed around is kind of a synopsis of what those features are, how much they cost, and the comparison between standard and platinum on the backside.
So they can only see
Go
the
ahead.
computer, they can't see the speaker.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
So you can see here with standard, you have Tempo, Fusion, Realist, Supra, the mobile apps, listings on HR.com, listings through IDX, access to statistical reports, the list up dashboard, Inman Select subscription, fine. What Premium's gonna separate is agent blogs, branded app, agent IDX, appointment manager, client experience rating, market insight, IDX tools and widgets, enhanced lead capturing. Go ahead. So the big question, of course, that everyone asks, that I've answered now probably 1,000 times, is why? Why now? Why all of a sudden? Historically, we've been introducing new tools to our members, since we went online in 1997, and we have not raised our dues, our MLS subscriber fees once. It's been $20 a month or $63.96, as you know, per quarter since we've been online. Go ahead. So what caused the change? NAR actually created a policy back in 2014, either late 2013, 2014, that caused MLS to what's called unbundle certain services from the MLS. So there are other MLSs out there that as they add these services, they raise their subscription rates. And so it's considered timed services, and certain companies and brokerages think that might be a time of services. And time of services always gives the Department of Justice interest with antitrust. And we, as realtors, are leery of antitrust. We've had investigations by the federal government multiple times when it comes to that, which is why we separate things so there's no time of services. So what it came down to is we had to what's called unbundle any services or features that are not substantially related to the function of an MLS. That's the key phrase. And so initially we balked at the rule because we were the most severely affected by it. We are one of the very few associations in the country that actually build our tools in-house. Most other MLSs actually contract third parties like Playster or Nplay or other companies to provide these services that we do ourselves. And so by doing that, the agents then have to pay individually for each service that they want. If they want to use Nplay, they got to pay Nplay, then Playster, then Circle, then IDX Broker, then all these, and it really adds up. At the bottom of your front page, on that flyer, you see the comparison. MLS Platinum is $129. By taking 8 of the third-party vendors for 8 of those tools, it comes out to $1,800 if you were to use them separately. Go ahead. So why are we charging $129? Where did we come to that number? In the discussions when we balked, we asked how much can we charge? Can we charge $1? If we had needed the money, we would have raised dues to support these features. So obviously money was not the issue for us. So they said that it has to be at least 50% of your monthly rate, which comes to the $10 a month. So where's the money going to go when we receive that money? Here's the kicker for your association. The money that is generated from MLS Platinum is 100% staying within the association. And so what that means is that all the tools that we've been developing, we will now have an added budget to develop more tools, improve the existing tools, and just make things better. None of the money from this goes to NAR, which was where I personally find it curious that we have to charge our members more money, but NAR sees none of it. Go ahead. Why don't we just lower our fees? Is the other question, and the answer there is that the $20 that you pay a month is what covers the existing services that we have, Fusion, Tempo, Realist. There's a monthly fee that we pay to CoreLogic, our vendor, to have those products, and that $20 a month covers that for us. Go ahead. So here are the key tools, and then the comparison we're talking about here. There's client experience rating. The comparable product is Real Satisfied at $84 a year. Agent branded apps. Smarter Agent does a product like that for $420 a year. Virtual office websites, WolfNet does for $240 a year. WolfNet also does Agent IDX websites for $468 a year. IDX Tools by WolfNet is another $180. Show listings by the Facebook app, Nplay is $120. Home site, which is done by single property sites, is $144 a year. And enhanced lead capture tools is $300. So this is the actual number, the 1,956, that you come out just to those 8 tools. There's a few more that won't even mention in there. I bring that about is I've gotten, the feedback that the 129 is too expensive. How can you ask us to pay that? And these are agents who were using our tools, and I asked them, well, what's your alternative? What are you going to use instead that's going to be less expensive to you than the $129? And that's when I hear no answer on the other side of the phone. Go ahead. So going into just direct discussion about this, we balked at this policy. This is not a policy we had control over. And one of the features that we really negotiated and Bob won was HAR.com. They wanted HAR.com to be in the Platinum service package, which would have meant basically 100% participation in MLS Platinum, and we effectively raised everyone's dues $129. And we lobbied that. We asked for the price to be $1 per member. And of course, they said no. We asked every which way we could, and we ironed out down to these 13. Because they basically wanted to say anything that wasn't Tempo, Fusion, or Realist is not substantially related to the function of an MLS. And the key thing is if we had done all this through third parties, there would be no fees to raise to our member. But because we build it in-house, we have to separate the services from each other. And so it took 2 years to really boil all of this down, get everything to be compliant with our legal counsel, their legal counsel, everything's on the same page, and that's why we're here. And that's why we're going live July 1st. So here's the other thing I can add. If you're interested, if this is something that you will benefit from, you go to hr.com/MLS and you'll see a sign up. To sign up for it, it is an annual fee, and it's at any point in time that you sign up. It's not a part of your quarterly dues, it's not a part of your annual dues. So the July 1st is the start date, but if you're saying you want to do a wait and see, you can. If you want to sign up July 15th, or if you want to sign up August 15th, you can sign up on that day. And the annual renewal is the day that you sign up. So whatever day you sign up, a year from that point is when you're going to get renewed. And so then you just, and it's like that. Unlike, some of our MLS services, where we get you restored or something, it takes like an hour or sometimes a day, it feels like. This isn't instantaneous because we're developing it separate from our current system that was built in the 90s.
Is everyone getting Platinum service at this second?
No.
No.
Right now we're sitting at about, yes, sir?
So if we've already signed up for it,
Mhm.
our anniversary date will be July 1st. Okay.
Yes. I'll answer his question and finish up on that. That's a good question. The first answer is we got about 1,000 people that have already signed up, which is basically a pre-registration. The credit cards will not be charged until July 1st. So if you sign up today, your credit card gets into a stasis until July 1st when we do the first credit card run. And that's when your renewal date will be put into effect. So no one's renewal date will be put in before today. And there's no, if you're wanting to wait to put your credit card information because you're concerned, like I can be when I pre-order something on Amazon, I don't want them to charge my card early. I wait until the last possible minute. There's no problem in doing that.
Could you slowly go through each of these additional things and explain what an agent blog is and how we would use that? Because
Sure.
I'm not technical.
Thank you.
I don't really know.
Not a problem.
what it's for me.
Not a problem. Okay, that's right there. One more? Perfect. Okay, so the first thing is just later on, if you want to, on hr.com/MLS, these 13 tools and its explanations are there as well for you to review later. We'll cover these right now, but I just want you to know you have
Is there a little YouTube video of each one? Or
not a
something?
YouTube video of each one, just an explanation of each one.
Okay.
Agent blogs is something that roughly 15% of our members take advantage of right now. And that's going to be the number you're going to hear throughout each of these tools, which is kind of surprising when you think about some of the benefits they provide. Agent blogs allows you to, basically it's a arena for you to post information about real estate tied to yourself. And this gives you more pages and more page views to be on the internet existing about you. It also gives more places for a consumer to find you. If they're looking for you or if they're looking on hr.com for you, there's a whole blog section. So you'll see some realtors that have created weekly blogs. And so they put blog entries in there, and eventually they will have people that are reading those and communicating with the realtor from the general public on those. And
Can I create my own name? Can I be HoustonHeightsBlogger.com?
No, it's got to be tied to your real name that is associated with the association. So you can't make up any kind of name you want. It's got to be real and static.
Bill Baldwin blogger.com or something.
Well, you can of course reroute to another URL if you wanted to.
Cynthia, are you already doing
Yes.
this one?
I signed up for it, but I haven't started.
You haven't blogged yet. Okay.
The agent-branded HR.com mobile app is a new feature that you should have recently seen in the app. It is currently kind of a beta. It's working through some kinks, but what it's going to do is allow direct interfacing with your clients. So if you sign them up for agent-branded app, you will then have access to what they're looking at, the searches that they're running. You know, anything that they see, you will be able to see. You'll be able to see their saved searches, and you'll be able to directly communicate with each other through the app. So this, of course, we're going to want feedback as it develops. This is going to be fueled by the revenue that's generated from MLS Platinum, because there's a lot of development in the My Branded app.
So if I get a client and they already have the Holler app on their phone, what do I have to do to get them into My Branded app?
You would send them an invitation from your HAR app, and then that could remask them to be the agent-branded app.
When you go into HAR app on your phone now, at the very top, it says branded app. If you click on that, then that's in.
Then it sends it to them. And there's two people, you send one to Mrs. Smith and one to Mr. Smith.
You can, yes.
So do they only have one agent that they can?
Yes.
Okay. So if they had one.
So
and
lock them up.
If they go to switch, it would send a notification to the first agent that they've been disconnected from that other, to the first agent that they've disconnected from you.
You'll be able to see how loyal they really are.
Right.
Okay, so they can't, they don't have to disconnect from you, they just connect to somebody else and then.
To my understanding, it's supposed to automatically disconnect.
You know, they accept your app?
There should be a notification when they do accept your invitation to the branded app.
I spent a whole lot of time this weekend checking the email addresses to invite them, hit invite, and I had my cell phone there. Nothing happened. I didn't get an email notification.
Then support@har.com is where I want you to send an inquiry about that, because those are the tech things that need to be investigated and worked out. That's why I'm calling it a beta. I am having it rolled out now, so that we can work through these quirks as we get towards the summer selling season, when tolerance for technical issues is at a low. I view technical understanding between May and September. Don't mess with anything. Stop messing with stuff, because we got buyers that don't care about glitches. And I completely agree with that.
Is there a limit to how many people you can invite at one time?
I don't know. That's a theoretical question that hasn't been asked. So I would say limit it to 20 or 25 at a time, depending on how massive you're trying to go with it. But you could also ask what the limit is, and I'll ask as well and get the answer for if there is a limit.
Most people have already apps on their phones, HR apps.
What would be the advantage to them to link in? Is there something they're going to get with our new branded app that they?
I would say is that as the agent, you can look at what they're looking through. It gives them access. So a consumer will call, will go play on their app throughout the day, and they'll look at things. You'll be able to see what they were looking at. And so by doing that, you can tell them that by being linked to the agent branded app, I can proactively investigate things that you may be interested in, but you don't want to call me about it. And as you get into the Ys and the millennials who love their phone but don't like this part of their phone, they're more apt to look at things, save it a favorite. And if you have direct link, then you can say, hey, without even bothering you, I can look at what you're looking at and then give you more information without you even having to call or even text me, for that matter.
Will there be a class that will go over some of these?
Yes. Yes. Well, there is. In fact, the tools class has been rebranded the MLS Platinum Tools class. And it focuses only on these 13 tools that are being separated from what we've known as our HAR tools. And so that's a 2-hour class.
When does it start?
HR.com/edu is already ongoing.
But it just doesn't tell you about, I just took it, it doesn't give you specifics about this any more than what you just told us.
Really? Well, then that's the feedback for reading. We can
Well,
improve that.
just what you told, about the branded app, they know what you.
Well, the branded app, yes.
Yeah.
The branded app.
Sample it and show it, and she showed you how to do it.
Yeah.
That's 'cause we're
the
still
branded
learning.
app, because it's not there yet, so that's not ready yet.
And then because we're still learning, right?
But now, what is this, so this says My Branded app. Why does is that because why does it say that now?
Let's show it, because if you touch it right there, it's then going to give you information about the branded app and how to invite other people to it.
Okay, so this is for those of us who have signed up.
Well, anyone who has the HR app and is an active MLS subscriber is going to see the branded app button at the top. And that's encouraging you to touch it and learn more information about it. Because then what it's gonna want you to do is invite your clients to be in the agent branded app.
Okay, so I can go ahead and invite, is that, sure, like I can go ahead and invite them, but it doesn't, I'm sorry.
It exists. It exists. They're just working through some kinks.
Okay,
So it's.
You
it's
may
what-
not be able to do 5,000 at one time,
okay.
Cynthia. Might have to do one at a time.
There are certainly bugs, but I always say everything has bugs. I've been working in software for 13 years and I've yet to find a bug-free system of any kind out there. When it comes to this, the reason that I was in support of it being made available to beta is that I'm not a realtor. Danny, my cohort in technology, is not a realtor. There's only so much that him and I can simulate before we just.
Same problem here.
And so making it available to enthusiastic realtors who want to use a product before it's finished is invaluable feedback for us to go, okay, we need to fix this, we need to address this. And we found the positive feedback from the technology advisory group. They were the first people to use it. It was a closed beta to about 100 realtors, which was then opened wide in the beginning of April.
But just a heads up, you have to put your contacts into HAR. And, it's not like you can pick them off your phone and do them. You have to go to HAR, put the contacts into HAR, and then select it to invite. That's what it looks like.
You wouldn't advise us waiting a little bit longer, closer to July to come to class?
If you're interested in learning more about this specific tool, look closer to July is a good idea. As things get. And that's feedback. Is integrating it with your address book. Changing the app so that it has access to your address book.
Okay,
So that you can import.
Okay, so that's feedback you're getting.
Right. Yes. Agent website with IDX, that is your agent website that shows your listings or shows all listings, which allows an MLS search. It's one of our oldest tools. It's recently it's in the process of being revamped to have a more modern look to it. This is where you could send your clients, or you can buy a URL and then mask it to display this page instead. So that you have a website with presence, and it would just be at the cost of MLS Platinum as opposed to having a third party do it for you.
So if we already have a website, we can just link it to them.
Yes, yes you can.
It's an acronym. What does IDX stand for?
Internet Data Exchange is what IDX stands for.
The IDX feed, when you go to our website and you go and you look at our listings and you see all the lists of our properties on there, that's an IDX feed from our.
Or if you go to Mobile Banker's website and it has every listing on MLS, they're
That's
using
an
the
IDX
IDX
feed.
to get all
And there's
listings.
internet, the same.
Internet Data Exchange.
I knew that.
IDX is the acronym that has created the cooperative environment that we have.
Zillow, Trulia, and Realtor.com to have all the same MLS information.
Right. Appointment manager, this is something that certain brokerages have taken advantage of. The broker has to sign up for it if you're going to use it, but it's an in-house showing service tool. It's a self-service showing.
So we use it.
Don't we already have that?
Yes.
Yes.
But not some smaller brokers just use use a centralized showing or something. They don't necessarily have this, so we do use it.
Right. Automated social media postings. This is a tool that allows you to link up your social media accounts and automatically post. When your listing posts, it'll automatically post to, say, your Facebook page or LinkedIn for you. You would just have to have those set up. Client experience rating, which is one of our most heavily used tools outside of the agent website of IDX, is the rating system that allows you to, after a closing, if you were the buyers, if you were to represent the buy side, you get an invitation to send a survey to your client and they can rate you. If you're on the listing side, it's the same thing. And you then have the ability to display these ratings on hr.com so that consumers can see what others feel about your service based on feedback from clients. And this is used by almost 20% of our members. And there's even a selection on hr.com when a consumer is searching for realtors to search for only client experience rated members. So they can filter the listing or the agents they're looking for based on that. And it shows the rating, it shows the number of surveys that have been completed, and then it shows any kind of commentary that your clients may have left within the survey. You have the choices like client experience rating to participate in it, but not display. So if you're concerned based on the first few surveys, you can send out the surveys and see what the feedbacks are, and if you're happy with the score, then you can turn on the thing to display it to the public so they can see it. The only thing you can't do, and we won't entertain, which we've been asked about a million times, is can I selectively send a survey to my clients because I really didn't like the client this transaction and I know they're going to give me a terrible survey? The answer is no. And the reason is that keeps the data relevant. If you were to select it, selection bias would destroy a rating system. Because then, like eBay would never, half the transactions of a shady seller would not get posted. Enhanced lead capture tools. This is like Lead Connect. This is the lead management system that's inside there. If you don't participate in MLS Platinum, you will get an email that there's been a lead generated, but that is all that you will receive. Any of the other tools, if you use lead capture, like the Lead Connect that allows them to go directly to your phone number or send it to you as a text, those will be turned off. Home site is, there's a URL for every single listing. If you go to hr.com and look at your listing, you'll see a view property website. And that's a specific website made just for your property. IDX tools and widgets is really a builder off of this. Instead of a full-blown website, it's portions of the website so that you can use it on what I would call a hybrid IDX, where you had a third party build a website frame, but you want to display HAR-based tools inside of it. Lead management tools, which ties into lead capture tools. Market Insight is the one that lets you email weekly the listing traffic report, as well as any kind of market activity to your client and any showing activity if it's integrated. Show My Listings Facebook app is a build off of auto social media postings. This lets you show your listings directly on Facebook. And it actually has it shows the primary picture, the basic information, and then a click through to your website or to your dedicated IDX page for that listing. And
Does it have to be a business Facebook page?
It can be.
I mean, it doesn't have to.
No, because whatever you connect to as your Facebook page, that's what it's going to connect to.
Okay.
And then virtual office websites, which is still under development. This is VOW is the acronym, and virtual office websites is kind of the other side of the coin to IDX. And the difference between the two is that it allows consumers to see sold data. And that's kind of what you'll see Redfin is doing, and Gary Green is now doing, and Zip Realty is doing, and it's just growing and growing and growing. And VOW, we'll spend a couple minutes on. It can be an hour-long conversation if you really get into the weeds of it. But an antitrust lawsuit that was settled by NAR back in 2005 required that VOWs be allowed to exist. And a VOW is effectively can be considered a business that operates solely on a web address. So think of it as this building right here, but only in the internet. And so when a consumer comes in and says, hey, I want to look at the closings that have occurred in the Heights over the past 6 months, let's go to a computer and let's take a look at them. Now with VOW, they can just go to your web address, register, agree to terms of use, and then they can search results on their own. And that's what VOW effectively is. It's not public, so it's kind of close to public. They have to register, they have to agree to terms of use on the website, agree that this is establishing kind of a relationship, not a direct relationship like a buyer-tenant rep agreement, but is establishing a relationship between the two, the website and the client, for them to access the sold data.
Why would you want to give away your power like that?
That's the only way they can get access to the clients.
Exactly.
They don't have a brick and mortar store for you to come in and establish relationships.
Okay, so that's done.
I'm going to create CaliforniaRealtor.com, and I'm going to be able to provide the same information that Bull Baker can in California.
Right.
They do the same thing in Texas now.
But now you capture them.
That's right.
So that you can communicate with them. So that now I've got a website, a virtual office website, and a blog, and an agent website with IDX. Are those all in the same place?
No, they're different pieces to each other. I mean, you can link them together. You could create your own website and then put your blog in one section of your website, and then put the search for active listings on one part of your website, search for sold listings on another part of your website, and integrate that together. But they are, to a degree, separated outside of the agent website with IDX, which will have all those tools listed in one frame together. But depending on how you want to flex your internet presence, you may develop a third-party website so that you have more control over the display, over the functionality, over where things are located, how buttons operate ad nauseum.
By that you mean just search ranking? Like someone goes on Google or.
Well, yeah, that's the biggest problem. That's why IDX has proliferated outside of ours, because our initial IDX that we had was an iframe, had no SEO optimization, which on the internet means no juice. And so what everyone started doing is going to third parties, like Playster, like Website Box, other companies that are heavy hitters on SEO, so that your website will then have a higher presence when someone Googles, Houston real estate in the Heights. And then suddenly listing firms come up. That's because they're pumping the SEO juice. And SEO is search engine optimizations. It's basically back-end tricks that techies use to make their website come up higher than others on a search result without paying for ads, which is click for ads, and those can get quite pricey quite fast.
So all of that stuff is automatically submitted to search engines.
Well, we have a limited SEO juice, but ours is based for us. So anything that goes there is going to be promoting HAR.com as a whole, as opposed to just the individual, except when they search by a certain name. That's why I'm waiting to see how the new agent website is more optimized for SEO. Because at this point, with the existing one, I've been telling realtors, if you want more SEO, you've got to go third party.
So it's not going to depend on what keywords they use and everything in their particular.
No, that's where you create a third party. You create your own websites where you can start creating footer phrases. Right.
So the bottom line is limited service realtors who just barely do this once a year for their brother-in-law are probably just going to be standard members. Full service realtors need platinum if you're going to be in the sale of single family residential real estate. I mean, you're going to have these tools. It's probably not going to be an option.
No, and my strongest complainers that have, because Sean, Matt, and myself, we've been dealing with any phone call that gets escalated, and the primary people that have been complaining, one, my favorite part, they're not doing any business, and two, they're not using the tools. So they're complaining for the sake of complaining. And while I can respect that, because yes, the fees are going up and I'm not happy about it either, but you're not using the tools you're complaining about paying for using, so just don't pay for the tool and you're good, you're not affected by it. But
you'll still have access to Tempo and Fusion and Realist.
And Matrix when that comes out.
Right.
Absolutely.
When is Matrix?
Towards the end of this year.
And then all the other stuff is going away when?
Tempo is, to clear the air there, Tempo and Fusion are not going away this year, period. Just like I said, how we don't mess with technology, we try not to between May and September. Bob has a very strict window for retiring software, which is after Thanksgiving and before Valentine's Day. So if we can't get it retired in that window, then it's all the way to the next Thanksgiving. And so while we know we're not making this one, so we're targeting the end of 2017 as when we're retiring Tempo and Fusion.
I think Bill mentioned to us that he had been given a site, and then you said, I can't find it. So can you send Matrix to Bill?
No, I have a beta test.
Oh, you do?
I do, yes. I just have to log in on me. I couldn't share that because it's only through my login.
It's a closed beta at this point because it's really an alpha. And in alpha, like we're showing migrated app in beta. That means it's past certain technical requirements to release to a broader audience. Alpha means it's unfinished. So you would go to a certain page and there'd be nothing. And that's much worse than, say, running into a bug. Because if you're using that section of the site, like CMA Wizard in Matrix doesn't exist right now. So if you went to try to do a CMA, it'd be like, sorry, this page can't be found. Well, that breaks your whole experience.
As we get to Matrix, whether that's the end of the year or the beginning of 2020, we probably could schedule a time to come to HAR and have a whole boulevard.
We've been planning our strategy for the Matrix rollout since last year. And that's based on the fact that we fully intend to retire Tempo and Fusion, which means we have to get all of our members trained, at least make a solid attempt to train them. So then that means that Marilyn and Christina and myself and a few others are going to be making office visits based on the requests of brokers that want an office visit. And then we will do 2-hour trainings, 3-hour trainings if the time permits.
Could we do an office visit?
Sure we can. Sure we can.
Like I said, sometimes we just go there because they have bigger screens
Right.
And more seats.
Yeah.
When are you going to open that up to beta?
A wide beta for Matrix is most likely going to be fourth quarter. There's 2 milestones they have to hit before I'm comfortable with that rollout. which is they're completely rebuilding the client gateway to a very modern experience, which would be something I'm very apt to, because right now I feel like our current client gateway looks like clip art. So I'm ready for that to change. And this one looks like, it almost looks like a Zillow built site. It's got a very modern, very minimalist feel to it that has a lot of tools that realtors will be able to take advantage of based on what they can't do right now.
So how do we sign up for that?
Oh, the beta is going to be wide. What I mean by wide beta is everyone's going to be invited. Kind of like Branded App is on the app. What will happen is in December, if we approve it, then there'll be enter, tempo, fusion, and then just another enter, there'll be matrix. You'll click on that and you'll go through. Yes, sir.
Yeah, two-part question. Number one, in what other markets is Matrix currently being used?
Just about everyone except ours.
Okay. And then number two, are the improvements and the milestones that you're requesting for the rollout for HAR, will those automatically be incorporated into other markets across the nation?
They're not in the markets yet, but yes, they will. We're looking to be the last to be the first.
So HAR is driving the market improvements for others.
We're pushing, yes. We're pushing to get these, we're refusing to cut over until they have those features in place. And it's a more responsive design. The current Matrix platform is compatible on phones and on tablets 100%. That's great. There's massive improvements we're looking to make to what are called style sheets to make it look like a more modern and current system. Because it was built 10 years ago, but it was built with the intent of being, they were forward thinkers when they built the product. Because it was a company called Terradatum or TerraSoft out of Canada. And their whole intent was to make sure it was simple, that it was fast, and that it was compatible with anything.
Yeah. Here in Houston, HAR competes with Zillow and other markets. Zillow seems to be the king. Are these other MLS systems in other markets in an adversarial or competitive relationship with Zillow there? Or
we view Zillow as a frenemy, to be perfectly honest, because we work with them. That's how we get the information in the list hub reports. We have a direct feed to them. I have daily talks with my cohort over there based on issues that I find, and they get them fixed. But as far as that competition, we're one of few MLSs that really have what are called a public portal. Most other MLSs don't have a portal at all. In fact, it's a growing number of MLSs that aren't tied to one association. Like if you go to Dallas's MLS is not owned by Dallas. Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, Irvine, Grapevine, Plano, Mesquite, and a few others are all shareholders in what's called a regional MLS called Netrix. And so there are these regional MLSs. Southern California has the same thing. Maryland has one, MRIS, Maryland Regional Information Systems. We're one of the few where we're owned and operated by the same association, same MLS, which gives us a different level of control. Because in a public portal for an MLS in those markets doesn't make sense. Because who do you market as? Dallas? Do you market as Fort Worth? They hate each other, so.
Yeah.
Don't want to get off track on Matrix, because we're sorry, the rest of the year for that. Let's make sure your questions are answered on Platinum versus Standard first. Any questions about that? So you can sign up now, build your credit card July 1.
Yes.
And it'll be annual for that. Or you could start on August 1 and then it will renew August 1.
Yes, correct. Working all the way to keep going. And then questions and then next. Okay, so one thing I wanted to just quickly give you before I get into what Bill had asked me yesterday afternoon. This is just a market snapshot, and this is almost 36 months of data being analyzed in the Heights Greater Heights, showing that in 2014 around this time, the months on inventory was 2.7. It's gone to 5.6 in 1 year, and then it's kind of started to crest at 6.2. So the months of inventory has doubled, more than doubled since 2014, but we all know that 2014 was a banner year. Go ahead. So what precipitated the growth of months of inventory? The number of active listings that were on the market. There were 290 in April 2014, 583, and now 612, which again, you see the crest is almost in line with each other. Go ahead. And then just like you would expect, the transaction volume in 2014 was over 1,200, I think 1,255, and then 1,245, and then just under 1,200 here. And then the average sales price, of course, though, has continued to steadily rise from 445 to 530 as of the April data. So detached garage apartments.
We're covering a lot of topics here.
This is one of my pet peeves that I'm dealing with right now. within our realist system. So you'll see here that this says it's a 1,599 square foot property in Stewart. And 1315 Omar, we all know that's not a 1,599 square foot property.
Now, he even says it, you know, and in his age remarks, he tells us that.
What causes part of an issue is that HCAD, displays that full-size square footage as the total living area. Go ahead. But down at the bottom, they actually separate it from 1071 and 528, which is where the 1599 comes from. Continue. So if you're looking inside the realist, you'll see a different header. It'll say multiple building property summary instead of building property summary. And so that's to give you the clear indicator that there is more than one building that is being registered on this property. Continue. And then you'll see here, building square feet 1071 versus the 1599. If you looked up here, there's the characteristics for the whole thing with 1599. This actually, building 1 of 2 is 1071. That's the actual square footage. So we are trying to find these properties and get them fixed as we're made aware of them. And at the same time, the issue actually stems from our auto population. It's auto-populating the total living area, and we've expressed a concern to our vendor that it shouldn't do that. And again, asking questions as I do, every other market operates this way, and apparently we're the one raising the flag, which is common for us to raise the flag. That's not how it should be done, because I don't think anyone in this room considers a detached garage apartment to be a part of the primary dwelling's living space.
I thought it was against the law to do that.
It's against MLS rules.
It's against MLS
Well,
rules.
you know what I mean, against
Right.
MLS.
The issue here is, of course, that someone, a 1,600 square foot dwelling in the Heights area is far more appealing than 1,000 square foot. But then when you tell them it's 1,000 square foot here and 600 over here, that changes the whole dynamic of how they feel about that property. Not to mention, it makes the price per square foot
Okay, so I have Kaiser, the exact same thing with the 1,000 square foot bungalow with the 600 square foot garage apartment, and I'm at, $400 a square foot, and they're down at $295. It's not fair for the company.
This looks like an investor special.
Well, why isn't there somebody at AJR checking out these guys? Are you going to?
Well, it's needles in a haystack to some degree, because then we have to reroute our current resources that are almost maxed to look into this issue. And in the grand scheme of things, when I looked at this at Village Request a couple months ago, less than 5% of properties in Harris County have a detached garage apartment. Of those, less than 50% of those, which I hope they never get found out by the tax appraiser, aren't registered with the county. So there are some people that have later on down the road taken their detached garage, converted it into a detached garage apartment, didn't notify the county, which means they didn't get permits and they didn't do any of the other things that are required. So they've just got a bomb sitting in their backyard waiting for them to explode. Because I know that when HCAD finds out about it, they can do a 5-year retro assessment and make that due now. Immediately. That actually happened, not that part, but the new construction. HCAD didn't reassess the property correctly for 2 years. And so the property was worth almost $400,000, and it was an inventory lot at $20,000. They figured out their mistake, they retroed the improvement value, and then suddenly the client had a $10,000 tax bill that was due yesterday.
I think it made me good keep into that house was a thorn in my side, and I kept clicking report, and I did it like daily, and nobody was changing it. It took like 2 weeks of it sitting there, me reporting and saying why I was reporting it, and then Bill stepped in and got it changed. But it's like, why
Sometimes,
isn't the HAR listening when I
well,
click that report?
They're waiting for the other agent to respond, and sometimes they're not very responsive.
which is why we issue fines. And the
But
thing,
if they see it, if you see it on there, shouldn't they immediately change?
No,
Shouldn't
they wouldn't do that. They
shouldn't
would wait for
Some
them.
kind of notice that says, change this right away?
they get a notification from the system, but then it's up to the listing agent and brokerage to comply with that violation. MLS rules give them 5 days.
Some people are happy to pay the fine. They're happy to pay the fine and keep it here. This is the same thing we have in the planning. If someone violates planning, and they can just pay a fine, they're going to violate it every time because they're going to weigh the cost of the fine. And if their client wants them to keep it this way and they're willing to pay the $100, $500, there's nothing that they can do about it immediately.
No, I have to go through the procedural steps. MLS Rule 9 requires that I give them 5 days before I can fine them. And then further, I have to give them an additional 30 days before I can suspend them. Suspends them when I get the order of detention, because then another email goes to Bill, saying this would happen here. it would say, okay, I've suspended this agent for not fixing this violation. If you don't fix this violation, I'm shutting your whole office down. But that takes time. There's procedural steps that I have to respect. I would love to just go in there and fix it and just change it.
You call it brokerage.
Well, the reason we don't is we send out almost 7,000 violation notices per month. We don't have those resources. We do email them, and the broker is notified, is given a copy of that email, as well as any admins for their office when they're notified. So it's most likely a refusal to change it because they're willing to weigh the cost versus the penalty. And to them, $100 is a pittance if it's a $450,000 property that they can sit on. They know the procedure, so they sit there and they wait and they wait, they know they're about to get suspended, then they fix it. If they didn't sell it in that time frame.
Right. If you see some souls also, we could try and correct the souls.
I'm sorry.
And maybe MLS could talk about shortening the window from 30 days to something smaller or something.
Because if you're in a bidding war with somebody and they've got agents who are working out in the Woodland Heights, they're looking at the comps going, works for me. It's like the numbers all add up when they show their client. And for me, who I'm just.
Well, this is falling out twice. I agree both the times. It's over the appraisal and the square footage. So I mean, they're doing their client a disservice.
Well, not moreover, this agent right here has $15.99. You go into his documents. He has an appraisal posted as a document to review. The appraisal says 1101 for the square footage.
It doesn't matter though, because
buyer.
For the buyer on the other side, it's, you have to explain to them as an agent that, oh, this is not the price per square footage. This actually is the price per square footage. But other agents may not be doing that. So
it's education.
You can never
The
control
guy's
other agents.
photo on Match.com was from 15 years ago also. Not everyone tells the truth on the internet, remember?
Right.
So you just have to do your job to explain why you're
I
way
feel
off.
like I lost the deal because somebody else got the house.
Well, it's not available.
Well, it's not.
Okay.
I understand, and it frustrates me too. I've been in charge of compliance for 10 years, and the vast majority of realtors, vast majority, comply. 90% of violations are corrected in the first 24 hours they're notified. Unfortunately, there's 55,000 listings, and there's 70,000 notices per year. So 10% are corrected in the first 24 hours. That's 7,000 issues that aren't addressed in the first 24 hours. You spread that out over 12 months, that's roughly 650. So and those we follow everything all the way through. It's just some things take longer than others. And is it frustrating? Absolutely, which is why we press with the fines. And if the fine isn't enough to deter them, then we raise the fine. The showing without an appointment, for example, used to be $100 fine. And that really upset a couple homeowners when their false alarm bill was $500.
Yeah.
And so we raised the showing without an appointment from $100 to $250, and second offense is $1,000. And suddenly, the showing without an appointment issue has all but gone away. Mostly it's new agents who don't understand that their super key is not a skeleton key. That's the mistake they make. Or that requesting an appointment is not actually confirmation of having an appointment, which is another mistake that they make.
How do you report it?
At the bottom of the MLS, you know,
There's a report button.
it now.
And we do our best to stay current on that. If you don't get, the response you're wanting, or you want just an update on it, you can email me, Nathan@har.com. I'm quite responsive
Yes, you are.
to emails. And I feel like every issue is a serious issue, no matter how small in the grand scheme of things it is, because you've raised the flag. Go ahead. So one more issue I want to get before I close is my Craigslist issue. This has been a thorn in my side for more years than I can count. There's nothing I can do to make it go away outside of raise awareness. So here's a house in the medical center. This is where the scammers are now getting a little bit better about their business. So it says it's $900 and 1,900 square feet for rent in Houston. And it's right there on Dixie Road. If you go to next, this is the actual listing, 1,920 square feet for $1,000 a month. So you see there's only a $100 reduction in it. This is more, they're trying to get more realistic. They used to.
Because I had one last month, it was 2,200 and they said it was 900. Well, of course it got a lot of showings.
Right, exactly. And those are becoming fewer and fewer and fewer than they used to be. And so one thing you can do, if you'll notice here, conveniently located to med center, local universities, and energy stadiums. See the comma and ampersand? Conveniently located to the medical center, local university's common ampersand energy stadium. They took the public remarks, copied and pasted it into Craigslist and used it. Next one. So what you can do when you discover a fraudulent listing is you can, if you don't want to do the quick and easy dirty work, which I'm more than happy to do, you can email me and say, hey, I found this scam on Craigslist. Here's my actual listing. Here's the link to the Craigslist page. I'll take care of it. I'll follow it through and make sure it gets nipped. If you know anyone that's been defrauded by the posting, they need to go to ic3.gov/complaint. That is the Internet Cybercrimes Complaint Center, which is a division of the FBI who investigates internet cybercrimes. Additionally, you would want to have it be reported to the local authorities and where the defrauding actually occurred. One way to be proactive is a set of Google alerts for your property address by going to google.com/alerts. Next slide. What you can do is you can put in any phrase. I kind of recommend you do this in general, period. You can do it on your house just by the address. You can do it by keywords, taking, say, a set of characters from your public remarks that you know are fairly unique and paste it in there for an alert. And then you can be notified once a day, which would then give you a summary of any new pages that have been generated based on the words you put in here. And then you can say only the best results and then specify the email address, create an alert, and then Google does the rest for you. And so that you're automatically notified anytime there's activity that appears on that page. So if you say put your address, the first day you list it, you're going to get a whole bunch of links. You know, Zillow, Trulia, Zip, Red, HAR, all of them are going to appear there. And then if you start noticing Craigslist, Hot Pads, Postlets, IWannaScamYou.com, those things would be raising red flags to let's investigate that and get it reported.
Where's that?
This is at google.com/alerts. This is a Google tool that you can use for just about anything. You can put your own name in there and get notified of any activity that is based on your name on the web. So any kind of blog or any kind of web page that creates information that contains whatever text you put in there, you'll get notified in a summary report every day by Google itself. Go ahead. Thank you. Y'all have any other questions? First
What
one,
is,
go ahead.
New Supras?
New Supras.
I mentioned it just because I've been president.
What?
Fourth quarter.
I heard about it when I went to.
Okay. The deal's not signed yet.
Okay.
But I'm more than happy to talk about it.
I ran across a new Supra.
Yeah, no. There are a few Bluetooth Supra lockboxes in our market because there was an inventory shortage last summer by Supra. So in order to fulfill our order, they had to send us Bluetooth because they had no choice, which started a wonderful rumor I spent a couple months squashing that we're converting lockboxes in 2015, which was never even close to being reality. Now we are in discussions with Supra to sign a new license deal, which would be a lockbox exchange, which everyone loves lockbox exchanges.
They're so fun.
Well, we don't have.
I've been here 3 years when I helped with that project, and that was well, I can't wait to do it this year. It is most likely will take place around November, and it is most likely going to be a one-to-one exchange, meaning for every box you bring in, you're going to get another box, and it's going to be a Bluetooth box. And what that means is, if any of you have that fob, throw it away. You won't use the fob anymore, and that will erase that whole infrared to Bluetooth conversion that has been paining a lot of people, especially those that have many Bluetooth devices that cause pairing issues where you have to constantly reset the fob or reset your app so that it will work and communicate with each other. But that should be fourth quarter as far as the exchange goes. And that's going to be a lengthy one because we roughly have about 100,000 lockboxes in this market. And they will all be exchanged. And it'll probably be like last time when we exchanged what were called the AE2s for the active box or the iBox. We will at some point institute a penalty for not exchanging your lockbox if you still continue to have some in your inventory. But there will be information coming out about that probably this fall regarding that. Yes, ma'am.
I just had 2 questions. And other than just reporting it, is there a way where it could, if you don't load the right amount of photos, I know you have like several days to do it, but if it's like past that point.
Automatic notifiers are in place. So
Okay.
85% of the notices we send out are system generated or
And then it just depends if
manually verified.
Okay, and then, so that's probably, and then I've run into this a couple of times where, for rentals more so, where there is an apartment complex listed on hire with an agent, and then you call the apartment complex and they're like, I don't know who that is.
Report that to us.
Okay, just report.
There are some agents that are working with apartment complexes that do have relationships, but then there are others that are trying to mirror what they think is the right thing, and they're absolutely wrong.
Okay.
Because we've talked to a couple of guys that are legitimately working with apartment complexes, and we have to explain to the others that are trying to mask or clone what they're doing. Explain you can't just take, go to apartmentlocator.com and grab a listing on there and throw it into the MLS. That's not how it works.
And so if we, I guess, just run across that, we just email
You can either report it or you can email me.
Okay.
Either way, we'll get the same effect.
Okay.
One thing that kind of chaps me is if you don't have a front elevation, shouldn't there be a rule that says you have to have a front elevation?
Why do you think that? Why should there have to be one?
Well, if I'm looking.
What if the seller adamantly doesn't want his front elevation?
Right.
So what if there's no selling point for them?
And what if there's so many trees and bushes you can't see?
Right, so I have that on
I mean,
8th Street and I have it at 205 East Fifth,
It's,
So I have to go by and look at it.
No, go to Google
so.
Maps.
Google map the damn thing, you can figure it
Yeah.
out.
Google Street. This
Well,
is,
it's already driven
I
right in.
come with a history, we've discussed this issue multiple times with the
And
advisory
Google
group.
Maps.
And the whole thing comes into photo standards. And every time we start talking photo standards, our attorney goes, I want to leave the room because y'all are talking nonsense. And they're inviting a lawsuit. That's why you're inviting on who's setting the standards, who's going to govern the standards, who's going to implement, who's going to review and determine that doesn't meet the standard. At face value, I completely agree with you. But then you get into the legal logistics of it and it just falls apart.
The other beef that I have.
I'm sorry.
I think people shouldn't list something that doesn't have any pictures the first day.
I like that though, I get more, that's just personal opinion.
I bought my house without pictures on my house.
I do it all the time.
I
the
sell
broker's
houses
the
without
owner and
pictures
a
because
huge
people want
realtor,
to look at them and
sometimes
I've already got it under contract.
You're required to put up 6
Yes,
pictures.
within 10 days.
Yes, but why 10 days?
Sometimes you get more showings. You represent a buyer or seller. If it's in my seller's best interest to put that up with no photos, then I'm required ethically to go and do that. And
I
so,
100% agree with this.
as the realtor, get off the photo thing and do what's best in your client's basis.
Representing the buyer, I have also gotten many of my buyers under contract
Before someone else did.
Before somebody else did,
You
because
use
other
it to your
people would go take
advantage.
a look at it.
That's right. That's the way.
And my realtor, I used a realtor when I bought my house, and she convinced me to go just give it a chance.
That's
No,
very
it's a good neighborhood, so we went by. My wife loved the front door, and boom, we owned the house for 10 years. So
It can work to your advantage if
It
it's
can.
seller or the buyer.
Yep. Sure can.
And they should have to put them on eventually, but.
and they do. Or they submit the no photo submission form, which is then the seller declaring to the MLS, I don't want pictures.
My 2 cents.
You should know every house and every address around here.
Okay, anything else for Nathan? We appreciate his hour already. This is very, very good.
20 minutes off, right?
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Just have one more brief thing, then we have a minor little presentation that you can stay for or not. So, I've been involved, I went to HAR, but remember even to the mayor's office, a bunch of stuff regarding the recent flood and then of course the flood from last Memorial Day. I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I just want to make you aware. So let's go to the next one.
We're going.
Okay, in general, what you need to know about the last flood, in the 12-hour period, not 30 days, not 24 hours, in the 12-hour period, on the west side of town, in theory, we had what was a 1,000-year flood. It occurs only 1,000 times, 1 out of 1,000 times this section of our city. But the 500-year flood, basically the west side of the city, was a 500-year flood if you measured in this 12-hour peak. Then, of course, they have it broken down 200, and basically the 100-year flood was the majority of the city, okay? And so there was massive amount of rainfall in this 12-hour period or whatever. So it's unprecedented. Even during Allison, which was an extended period of time, we never had this kind of water at one particular time over a 12-hour period, okay? So it's pretty extreme, especially on the west side of town. Point number one. We're only gonna hit some major points. In Allison, okay? And Allison, in that same geographic area, 15,388 houses flooded, okay? And in Memorial Day, in Ike, 2,800 flooded. This last 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 3,700 houses flooded, okay? So significant decrease because of activities through the Harris County Flood Control District and the city and the county working together. We've reduced the number of flooded houses in an unprecedented period of time for rainfall. Okay, so I'm just not sure how much better it's going to get than that, but keep going. Okay, keep going. I'm not going to focus on this too much. Keep going. They did a lovely job with whatever it is they're doing. I'm not here to promote them. This was Harris County Flood Control District. So after Allison, major adjustments were made in detention through the city of Houston and the county or whatever on how we both build streets and how you build subdivisions. And let's be frank, no house built after Allison flooded in this last storm. Okay? No house, not one house built after Allison flooded in the 12-hour period of massive rainfall. Okay? So theoretically, you must know that what the city and the county and Harris County Flood Control doing is working. Okay? The way we are building, so people say it's caused by massive redevelopment, which I'm sure is a contributing factor. The new developments are not flooding, new houses are not flooding, none of those flooded at all, not one. Okay, keep going. So the houses that have historically flooded, if you flooded 25 years ago, you flooded during Allison, you flooded during you flooded during Memorial Day, you flooded again. I'm not saying that we're not insensitive to the houses that are flooding, okay? The federal government, we've been talking about this for a couple of years, and the federal FEMA itself is a bankrupt institution. Remember, they pay out $2 billion every year and they only bring in $1 billion, whatever. Can't continue to do that. We've talked about subsidies for houses that have flood insurance. I'm not going to get off on that either. This statistic, as a realtor, was very interesting. The number of people that get flood insurance when they buy a house, your client goes and buys a house and it's in the floodplain or it's not in the floodplain, even those in the floodplain, after 2 years, 35% of the homes do not renew in the second year, and 62% of all homes in the floodplain that are required to have flood insurance as a part of their mortgage, 62% do not renew in the 5th year. Okay? So you know you have to have flood insurance. You get it when your mortgage is due up the first time. You may renew the second year, but in the 5th year, 62% in Harris County are not continuing their flood insurance. Okay? Might be a little reminder we might need to make to our 5 clients from 5 and 10 years ago to remember to renew your flood insurance. Okay? They don't regulate this very well, obviously. All right? Pretty interesting fact here. Keep going. Okay, so this is an analysis of real estate. If you're not in a floodplain, but you get flood insurance, which is the federal minimum, here's the monthly payment, and you're in the floodplain and you get flood insurance. In theory, you can buy apples to apples on a loan. You can pay $60,000 more outside of the floodplain for the same monthly payment. Okay? So if you're in Oak Forest and one is in the block in the floodplain and one is outside of the floodplain, the equivalent monthly payment, if you have flood insurance, is almost $60,000 more for the one outside of the floodplain than inside the floodplain. Okay? So if one is $30,000 more or $40,000 more or $50,000 more, in reality, if you have a mortgage, you're still paying more for the one in the floodplain than you are $50,000 more outside of the floodplain. Okay? About $60,000 is that threshold currently. Okay? The numbers are going to rise because these monthly payments are going to rise, especially for the ones that are in the floodplain, because we're subsidizing this. Remember, taking $1 billion loss a year. Pretty interesting. Keep going. Okay, this was very interesting that I don't have a lot of experience with flooding. Most of my life's been in the heights, or high ground or whatever. So, and I think if you have a house, a pier and beam house, I don't think your house is going to flood anytime in the near future. And people ask me, even theoretically close to the body, the garages tend to flood, but the houses themselves have not typically flooded. But if you have flood insurance, let's pretend you're a slab house in Westbury. Let's take that one. And you have flood insurance. And you have damage to the house. And let's just say it's, But it doesn't matter what it is. If there's $100,000 worth of damage to the house and you file a claim now, okay? What they're going to say is, we have subsidized these houses that are flooded too many times. You're only gonna get the money if you raise the house out of the floodplain, okay? And we're gonna take your slab house in Westbury, we're gonna have to raise your slab house out of the floodplain. Okay? Raise it 2 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, whatever you're gonna have to do. Only way you're gonna get your $105,000 is if you agree to raise it. Don't raise it, you're not getting anything. Sell that sucker and you're gonna move on and sell that as a lot. But if you agree to raise it, the average cost of raising that house in Houston, Texas is $100,000. But the federal government is setting a cap on what they're gonna pay for you to raise the house, and the cap in Harris County is $35,000. So instantly, if you have flood insurance and you're in Westbury and you're required to raise your house in order to get your money, you are shy $65,000 at a minimum before we get started down the path. You must know that. You're not going to get, you used to get 5 years ago, you get dollar for dollar. Whatever it costs, and they're going to reimburse you for that. They're no longer doing that. They have a fee that they're going to give you, and the average is about $35,000 in Harris County to raise your house. So even your guy with the flood insurance, if you sell in Westbury and it flooded in Memorial Day last year and it flooded in April this time or whatever, maybe you only got 1 inch of water, the likelihood is that your federal flood insurance is not going to cover 100% of the cost of whatever damage you might incur in the future. Just want you to be aware of it. I think there is a natural tendency of the government to want those houses to be torn down and not rebuilt on. Or if you're going to rebuild, you're going to rebuild another structure significantly out of the floodplain. Okay? They're not going to, it does not make economic sense. We're not doing anybody emotionally any good. If the house flooded 10 years ago, house flooded last year, house flooded today, quit. And I went to a program. Thousands of people made hundreds of thousands of dollars buying flooded houses, fixing them up, waiting to the next year to get another set of $100,000 of flood insurance money. There's a huge multi-million dollar opportunity for people who've been making money off of floods. They're not going to do that anymore. They're going to make you raise that house out of the floodplain. So I'm just telling you, I think I would be very leery for someone to buy in the floodplain in a slab house that doesn't have all of this knowledge. I'm so nervous about this. I truly believe that the new houses, we're not going to have significant issues, but the old houses that were built in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s are going to continue to flood in Houston, Texas. I don't see a way out of it. The streets are designed for 100-year floods, and the bayous have 10-year capacity. There's nowhere for the water to go. Nowhere for it to go except back up into those houses of neighborhoods that are historically flooded.
So doesn't that make those neighborhoods flat valley?
Yes, they do. And while they have, even in Westbury the last time, they have systematically, you could volunteer to sell your lot to FEMA, they would voluntarily buy it. You both have to kind of agree. We've had this lot by lot basis. So you could have 2 lots and then still a house, and here's a lot. They're not going to do that anymore. This is just, that's ruining neighborhoods and it's ruining property values. FEMA will go in and have to buy a block, or they're going to have to buy a whole subdivision. You're not going to see that. We even had it over here when TC Jester flooded during Alice or whatever. There's a few of those lots that sit there vacant. What the hell are we going to do with these lots? You can't build on them. Nobody's maintaining them. They don't mow the weeds. We can only have so many community gardens over here. We are trying, there is a federal law against them reselling those lots back. There's a movement, even HAR has a movement to try and recover these lots. A, you can put them back on the tax records, and B, you can build a house outside of the floodplain, because build a house 6 feet high like they do all along Nashua and those areas over there. You can see where it's common in that area, even though that hasn't flooded really again since 2000. So just want you to know I'm a little leery of a 1950s, 60s, 70s house in a neighborhood that's traditionally flooded. A little nervous about what advice we're telling these people. This flood insurance, and they're making a big push. If you're in a slab house in not a raised pier and beam one, but a slab house in a fairly low area, you probably ought to look at flood insurance.
So what about if it's in a 500-year floodplain like in Bel Air and it's?
Well, I mean, Bel Air itself makes you raise, all new construction is raised outside of that deal, which is a pretty good indication the city of Bel Air is a little nervous about those houses.
So what was the cutoff year where you think now they've raised?
Well, I think after Allison, which was what?
2001.
So I think in 2002, 3, the codes changed enough where we haven't had any significant issues with those houses. Even the city of Bel Air adjusted their deal after that.
Will this information be on our Boulevard Realty
We can put
as a
this,
document
we can put
for?
we can, yeah, for
Don't you
presentation
think,
to the buyers.
when you're selling people houses in lower areas, that information needs to be.
These were very long presentations. I just took the snippet of the one that I thought was most residential related. If you have clients that were affected by the flood, I have a ton of information. I'm inundated with that at the moment. But yes, why don't we take this program and put it on back agent so that it's available to everyone? Yes.
Okay, so I have a friend in Ireland whose house flooded on Memorial Day, did not flood this time, but she wants higher ground. Okay, so selling her house, what?
Is it a tear down? She fixed it all back up after Memorial Day?
Yes.
Spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix it back up?
I don't know how much, but yeah, fixed it back.
That section of town, there are people that love that neighborhood and they're convinced that the Braves Bayou and the Med Center has created some of that issue. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I think there is a massive effort to finish the work on Braves Bayou. It's not a function of not wanting to. It's like, here you have permission, you have a $100,000 credit limit, except I'm only going to give you $1,000 a year. And so it's just been a function of federal funding is why they haven't finished that project or whatever. And I think that they did improve it even after Memorial Day because the number of people had 18 inches that only got an inch or two was significantly better in that section. I think the majority of those houses are going to be tear downs. I mean, I really think that's not the last flood we're ever going to see. It was really weird we saw it this quickly after Memorial Day. I think people are going to be very, very, very nervous.
When you're talking about neighborhoods, you're talking about an entire neighborhood regardless of whether it is currently in flood zone.
Right. You want to pull up a Google map or whatever, a Brave Bayou or something, just what's that street over there? What was the listing you had not too long ago over there? Well, didn't you have one not far from the bayou?
Which China's over there, and Robindale is like flat out in all of Robindale subdivision, including houses on Robindale.
Let's see where you're going.
It's flat out in
Just move the map.
Isn't in West, I sold some West 26 stuff, and if you go too far west, that floods.
Well, we can go right here. I mean, we can go right over here if you want.
I'm going.
A lot, 3 or 4 lots of
it's
same.
right there.
All that is 500.
Oh, it is?
These sections are probably going to be fine. I don't think you're going to see any buyouts over here. You keep going up. Yeah, even these sections right in here, keep going a little further.
That's all flood zone right there.
It certainly is. Yeah. Could they buy this swath? Could they buy that? I'm not sure they're going to buy the whole block. But I mean, they might come in and decide, you know what, we're just sick and tired, and we're going to take that and expand that right there. I mean, they could. I don't think they have enough money to buy all that, but they certainly could.
But that is all 100-year flood zone right now.
Yes.
Some of it may be flood. I mean, you go.
It's very interesting how we talked about how the maps work too, and the technology is increasing so rapidly, and they're using models. They are never basing any of the 100-year or 500-year anything on any actual flooding. They don't do that. It's all a computer model, okay? And they are dropping lasers, wide lasers. Big Brother's watching you at any given moment. They're shooting down here and measuring every day. They're doing it every day to measure these areas, and they're changing these maps so rapidly these days because the technology they're able to use just in the last 5 years of how they're shooting these deals to measure, and they don't care about the rainfall here. They're still measuring the backup from the bayou from some other place or the Katy Prairie. They're determining what's happening in the Katy Prairie or Barker Cypress in the Barker Reservoir to determine how these are going to work. very interesting. There was, the presentation number 1, this is presentation, I didn't.
Oh, yeah,
show it
that's
to
right.
you. It showed exactly how the waterways work and how the water is flowing down to the coast. I mean, we can pick this up another time or whatever, because it's kind of interesting, but I was just trying to give you a little snippet of, I'm a little nervous about.
So when you get the elevation report, I know we went over this a couple of years ago, but you want the baseline elevation of the house to be above.
That gets very confusing. Why don't we do that again? Well, I'll do that again very quickly. Not in another meeting. I will go over elevation certificates and the baseline, because I think it's probably due for another one of those deals.
I don't understand what's gonna happen to these neighborhoods where you've got these, $100,000 and $200,000 houses that now their flood insurance is gonna be more than their mortgage and they can't afford to leave. They can't bring checks to the table and.
The reality of it is the value of that is going to be reduced to the level that someone buys it for a lot.
Right, but the person can't sell it if they owe more than that amount of money.
People sell things at a loss every day. I mean, the sheer reality of it is oil costs more to produce than $44 a barrel today, but they're having to sell it for $44. So someone will either have to go bankrupt or close on it. Or
So when they took the houses along I-10 on the north side in the Spring Valley to widen the freeway, it was kind of destitute there for a while. I had a listing that was 2 or 3 streets off. Now it was going to be on the frontage road on the other side of the wall. And, for a year or two, you had those abandoned houses and people were allowed to live in their house and whatnot. But that was getting fixed because they were widening the freeway no matter what. There's nothing to make them come do any of this or,
There's not enough money to do what they really need to do, which is go and buy it all up at the same time. You have to have an appropriations bill for that. But there is movement in that direction.
What would they do with the land? Just tear down the
Parkland.
homes?
Parkland, it could be extend, it'd be a park space.
That's eminent domain.
Yes, it is.
So what they can do is.
We work with short sales all the time in 2008, 9, 10, 11. My old house on 10.5 Street was a short sale. Yeah, I'm familiar with them. They're kind of frustrating. Yes. Okay. Oh, we're going to talk about this. We'll pick back up. We'll send you this information. I think it is interesting. Okay, reminder, next week we are not going to meet here. We are going to the Federal Reserve, which is on Allen Parkway. We're going to have a tour of the Federal Reserve, a tour on talk about monetary policy and about interest rates one more time. We did this a couple of years ago. I think to get in, we need to know the name. So you need to RSVP if you're going to the Federal Reserve tour next Tuesday at 10. We'll meet there. You need to RSVP by noon on Friday so that we can turn the names in. That's better organized. You will need identification to get in. They don't just let you walk in with your name. It's a very secure building. Remember, after 9/11, it is the single most secure building between here and Dallas. The president or anywhere nearby, that's where he's going to hunker down over there at the Federal Reserve. So it is the single most secure building built since 9/11 in this quadrant of the state. So we're going to do that next Tuesday. The following Tuesday, we are going to the East End, and we're going to go tour the models of the Ivy Lofts, which are the micro units that they're building. Basically 400 or 500 square feet for $100,000, and 800 square feet for $200,000, and 1,200 square feet for $300,000. And 550 of these units being built. They built the models. We'll be able to tour the models and talk about micro living if you're so interested. We also need to know who's going to that because we'll go there at 10 o'clock. We'll stay till around 11. And everyone that wants to go, I will take you to Toot Suite and I will buy you lunch at Toot Suite over on Commerce or whatever. But I need to know how many people are going to show up over there. I have to feel if it's 20 or 30 or 40. It's kind of interesting. Following week, we will not meet. It's the May 31st, whatever. It's the Memorial Day weekend. Just not going to try and meet then. And we'll pick back up with a large number of topics that we're going to carry on through the 1st of June. Questions about that?
I just wanted to say that Mother's Day for open houses was awesome.
It was for you?
Yeah, I didn't think anybody would show up, but it was a great day for open houses, and maybe Memorial Day too. And I also wanted to mention that a friend of mine, Katie Osnick, whose husband does fences here in the Heights, Jolie. Anyway, she's doing these watercolors, And, they're great, and they'd be good client gifts if anybody wants them, for client gifts, so she wanted me to bring this.
Very, very nice. Okay, Arthur, what do we have here? Someone to speak to us about supplemental insurance if you're interested in it, right?
Yes.
Give us the 1 minute drill and then we'll have those that want to stay, talk and listen.
So we're gonna hand these out. My name is Susie Fry and this is Mary Beth, and we represent Family Heritage. We actually represent all of the realtors in Austin area, Houston, San Antonio, and Corpus. And what we do is we provide supplemental insurance to the agents. What that means is right now with healthcare getting super expensive, especially being 1099, that's hiring our deductibles. Some of us are trying to lower our premiums, but even with that, if we're not working for something huge like cancer, heart and stroke, car accidents, since we are on the road a lot, it's our income is dwindling. And with those expenses still exceeding themselves, where are we pulling money to cover the assets that we have, our home, assets that we have as far as mortgage, car, expenses with all the medical, that kind of rack up. So what we do is we pay you guys for all the days you're at work, for all the expenses that you go through, either, for any of those catastrophics, to cover any of the assets that you have so you don't lose them during that time frame. The best part about it is, unlike any other type of supplemental, like you've heard of Aflac, Colonial, if you don't use it, we actually make this an asset for you. So we return 100% of the premiums you put in back to you. So it's not something like where you're renting insurance. If you don't use it, you lose it. You actually own the policy. There's no contract period, and it's as low as $4 a month to have that type of protection. So if you want further information, we're going to hand these out. Just leave us your name and a phone number, and we can give you the rates and the different types that you would want to sign up for.
Perfect. All right. And that, thank you all very much.
Yes. I have not.
It's for anybody, but would you, yes.
Did we get any new information today? Meeting times?
I'm our relative, go ahead and leave the papers on the table. I'm not,